Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient.
Sure. Well, I'm very excited today. I have the writer Terah Van Dusen here to speak with us. I got to know her through a lot of events here where I live in the Pacific Northwest. And I'd like her to talk a little bit more about herself and what she does and what she creates. So thanks, Terah. Thanks for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen. I'm happy to be here with you. And like Jen said, my name is Terah Van Dusen. I am a writer. I write personal essays. I write poetry. And I've been writing a memoir for over 10 years now, since I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I live in Walton, Oregon. So that is just about a 15-minute drive from where Jen lives in Veneta. I write for our local newspaper, and I work for a nonprofit that works to reduce child abuse and neglect in Lane County. And I'm also a mother. So, Jen, you may hear Autumn in the background. I've kept her home today because we've had a little cold.
How old is Autumn?
She's right there. Yeah. She's a year and a half old.
Wow. I can't believe she's that old. Oh my goodness.
Right?
So is your current project, are you currently working on your memoir?
Yep, I sure am. I actually just published, it's just coming up the pipeline of a book of essays that Groundwater's publishing, which you're very familiar with, helped me get into print. And so we've just finalized that actually as of yesterday. And so that's a book called Earthside and Other Everyday Miracles. And it's a collection of personal essays. So it's a lot like memoir, but it's not my big project. You know, it was one that was easier to put out into the world. The memoir, I have big hopes of, not self-publishing that one, but I am working on it. I'm always working on it. And my goal is to publish, pitch the memoir at the Willamette Writers Conference in August. So you may have heard of the Willamette Writers Conference before. I've been before. I have not, but I hear that there's a segment of the workshop where you can pitch your memoir to agents and publishers.
Yes.
So I plan to
it's
attend,
wonderful.
Not just to do that, of course, to gain other knowledge as well. But that gives me a nice, clear deadline for having my third draft of the memoir done. So.
Oh, it's nice. I really like, I've been to what's it called?
Please go ahead. It's called The Poetry of Place.
Ooh. Do you have a particular agent in mind that you're going to pitch it to, or are you doing the group pitch? What are your plans for the Willamette Writers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't know there was a one-on-one pitch. I envisioned doing the group pitch that I've read about, but look into the one-on-one as well. And I don't have an agent, of course, in mind. I don't know much about that, but I do have a small publishing house in Portland that I have in mind. And that's called Hawthorne Books. And they've just published other books that I feel like are in the vein of what I'm going for as far as the memoir.
Well, it's always good to have a good idea of who to go to, for sure.
Right? Tell me what your experience was quickly, if you don't mind, Willamette Writers Conference.
I've been to several other kinds of conferences, different. I've presented at conferences, and I've attended them. I got my first. I had an agent for a while, I went to the Maui Writers Conference many moons ago, and it was awesome. It was amazing. It was the first kind of event like that I'd ever been to, and it was kind of overwhelming. But I was not in the right place. I got the agent, but I couldn't follow through. So it was a mistake, unfortunately, but it was my mistake. So it was a learning mistake.
It was too soon. Yeah.
It was.
It was too soon.
I was very excited about my project, but it was. I wasn't finished with my project, and I was a young writer, and I was a inexperienced writer, and I had a lot of great ideas, but unfortunately, I didn't finish it. And, I think it was the wrong project at the wrong time. So it was a fabulous learning experience. I mean, I helped get my first book done that way. But it taught me a lot. It wasn't without its value, but I think I didn't know how to follow the rules, and I didn't know as much as I know now that if you want to have success in that arena, you're doing just the right thing. You have your project done. You have the third draft of it. You don't just go and pitch an idea. I mean, those days might have been here once,
but they're
not here now.
Oh my gosh. Right. That would be a lot of pressure.
Right.
In fact, through the years, the last 5 or 6 years, I've had writers saying, "Oh, you should pitch your memoir at the Willamette Writers Conference." And I've been putting it off till now, because my book wasn't nearly where it needed to be, and I knew that. So I'm happy to say I've had a professional editor edit the whole thing. Actually, the co-editor at Hawthorne Books took my project and edited the whole thing. So that's a step in the right direction. But I will admit, my ending is kind of flagging. It's not where I need it to be. So I'm not 100% in the clear yet. I've got a lot of work to do before August. So
that's great, though, that you know that what strengths you have, right? Yeah. That's wonderful. And knowing what you need to ask for help with.
Yeah. So it's a good goal. It's good to have a timeline. But thank you for asking about that, and thank you for sharing your experience about the Maui Writers Conference. I'm curious if you decided to pitch. Did you go back to a conference to pitch books when you were more ready, or take a different route?
Well, I have, as you know, and I guess I haven't shared this with a lot of my listeners. I'm one of the co-owners of a very small publishing house, and we publish other people's books, as well as Groundwater's. We used to be a magazine for 10 years. We had a quarterly magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. So I tried to. I really wanted to. I wanted to learn by doing a little bit more. So I wrote for lots of small things. I wrote for many short story anthologies and poetry anthologies, and I was I wanted to learn more before I pitched more. I haven't actually started pitching. That's one of my goals for the next year, actually, to decide whether or not I want to go the agent route again. I'm not sure.
You've done a wonderful job through Groundwaters. Your books are very professional, very quality. I just didn't know if you just done Groundwaters, or if you had tried to publish in a more traditional, I guess, way, or
well, yes, actually, I've only I've only actually published one, maybe two books through Groundwaters. Everything else of mine is through different professional publishing houses, just because I kind of didn't feel like I was qualified to do my own. I was too close to it, you know what I mean? So,
okay.
So I think they're all valid, obviously, and as you do, and but I think it's interesting to do different kinds of things. I feel like I'm a better writer because, like you, writing for newspapers, writing for magazines, like doing all the writing. helps you make you a much better communicator, doing all different kinds of things.
Uh-huh. And different projects would be suitable for different outlets, right? Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. So, speaking of different projects, can you talk about a time in your life when you felt that you were resilient? It sounds like you wrote your memoir, right? So you have got a lot of life lessons to learn from.
Yes. Yes, Jen, thank you. The premise of my memoir is my life as a single child with a single father. And my father, he suffered a traumatic brain injury when he was 8 years old. So when I heard your first part of the Resilient podcast, one of the first episodes that you did, you talked about your traumatic brain injury that you suffered right here on Highway 126 when you were a teenager, which I had never heard you share that story before. And it was like, wait, Jen too, like she might know something about this mysterious thing that I've been sort of dealing with my whole life, not in a negative way, but it was such a mystery, my dad's traumatic brain injury, and it's something that the family still has repercussions from, or not repercussions, but it's something that's still challenging for me now. And in my memoir, I really work through it. You know, your experiences are going to be a lot different, but for my dad, and this ties into me being resilient because I was, again, he was my single father and he was a young father. And he had a traumatic brain injury when he was 8 years old, which sort of put him back 8 years developmentally and physically and everything. You know, it's like he had to start over again at 8 years old. I think you said something similar when you told your story. And so therefore, when my dad has me at age 22, maybe he's more like a teenager in his mind and body, you know, for him personally. Again, not that your experiences are the same. But sitting here, I have my dad's newspaper article from when he was an 8-year-old boy, and they're calling him Miracle Boy. He suffered a drowning incident that kept him in a coma for a month. And so something I say in the memoir is when my father came out of the coma, he had to learn to walk again. He had to learn to talk again. He had to learn to read again. But somehow he still knew how to swim. So I may be using a little bit of creative there, you know, but he did learn all those things over again. And he came out of it with a speech impediment that very much set us apart in our community. I never have known anyone who talks like my dad. And so he and I we kind of traveled through this life together, growing up together, you know, with this very mysterious brain injury that basically he had no guidance on. He had no one telling him what to expect, how to recover. You know, there was very little support. There's still very little support. And so part of my resilience, I guess, is taking those challenges and working through them in writing and learning to be an understanding daughter and supportive of a man who functions a lot differently in this world than anyone I know. He's very spiritual after this experience. So the book is really a father-daughter memoir where I try to make sense of this thing that happened to him, for him and for myself.
Oh, that's so interesting. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So what
it's different.
What kinds of things it is? I think that as family members of people who have brain injuries or any kind of a trauma or any kind of a chronic illness, also, family members have a very specific set of things that they develop in response to that. And I see that in my children too, as well as my husband. It's I
Mhm.
really feel that you're taught a lot more empathy. It's not a
Mhm.
lesson anyone wants to learn, of course, but it's
Uh-huh.
incredible how empathic and sensitive to other people's needs you can be when you grow up with someone who
Yeah.
has those kinds of challenges. So,
Yes.
in
Yeah.
your life now,
Mhm.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do feel that my father gave me the gift of like compassion. He is a very compassionate, very sensitive, very spiritual person. I don't think he would have been necessarily the same person had he not had his accident, as we call it in the family, accident or incident. I think he
Hmm.
would have grown up to be a lot like, your average man and father, and he was not. He
Right.
was very,
Hmm.
very different, very down to earth, and very aware of other people, and just sensitive, compassionate,
Hmm.
empathetic. So those are all qualities that I feel like he taught me that came from his
Hmm.
experience with the drowning accident in Fort Bragg in the
Hmm.
1970s. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So now as an adult, what kinds of things do you do for self-care and nurturing yourself, especially as a parent,
hmm Um,
now that you're an adult?
well, I
Do
write
you have
a
time for that
lot.
sort of
I
thing?
write a Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I do because I have to write in order to handle things. So I'll be writing,
Uh-huh.
when I stop at the grocery store after I've driven from Walton to Veneta and I have an idea, I'm writing down a paragraph at the grocery store before I go inside, right? Like you make the time to write. That's
Uh-huh.
what I do. It's what
Yes.
has always anchored me. So journals
Hmm.
from adolescence, where I didn't know that so much of my curiosity and sort of grief and stuff was wrapped up at all in my dad's traumatic brain injury. But through the years, I distilled it to
Uh-huh.
be that was a challenging thing for us and for me to go through. But I still,
Hmm.
use it as a tool. And then when it comes to my dad, we have a really close relationship. He visits me a couple times a year at least. He farm sits for us. We live on a farm. And sometimes things are challenging between us, even because he does operate a little bit differently. He doesn't want to focus on the here and now or talk about things that are practical. He's a very dreamy kind of,
Hmm.
I don't know, not always the most logical, practical person. So there are some challenges between my dad and I sometimes. And so what and then there are with me and naturally like different people in
Right.
life. Sometimes I need space
Of course.
from my dad, like an adequate amount of like if I feel like I need to take some space in order to be the best person that I can be, I'll take that space, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
walks,
Right.
baths, take whatever space I need to be a respectful person to those around me. That's part of my self care. Some people are
Ooh,
going to
that's
need a little less space.
oh, I love that.
Some people are going to need a little more
Uh-huh.
space. But when it comes to parenting, when it comes to being a daughter, which some of my being a daughter has felt like being a parent. I'm not going to lie about that.
Hmm.
It has,
Hmm.
that's just been a kind of a reality for me. So I just,
Right.
I always
That
want
makes
to be
sense.
respectful, loving to those around me. And so I am honest with myself and with others. If I need a little bit of space or if I need to um, do something differently, I try to take the signals before it turns into something that I would regret to do or say, So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Oh, I like that. So, it sounds like your family is quite a support system for you. Your dad and your husband and daughter, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have
Yeah.
other other people that you call on for a support system?
I do. My 85-year-old grandmother has been a big part of my life, and that's not my dad's mom, it's my mom's mom. And she filled
Mm-hmm.
in the absence of my mom. And she lives in Arizona. I visit her often as I can, and we're in the process of her moving out to Oregon.
Oh, cool.
So she's my other person, and she's like very different than my dad, but I was raised by both of them, kind of. So she's very aware of
Gotcha.
the dynamic between my dad and I, and she's very supportive of my memoir writing, and she's just my real support system, emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, excellent. Do you have we talked about it a little bit before we started our interview today. You have animals in your life and pets. You live on a farm, so do you have a lot of animals, or do you just have the regular cats and dogs?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. We've got, just right now, I'm looking at the sliding glass door. I have my border collie. He's looking at me. He wants to come back in, but I thought he'd be a little too noisy for the interview, so he's staying outside. So we have one border collie,
Nice.
2 cats, about 13 sheep, right now 100 ducks, and maybe 250 chickens.
Holy cow. Do you guys have
Yeah.
you farm commercially, right? I know that I've seen you at the Saturday market
Yeah.
locally. Do you guys have a website for your
Right.
farm? Do you
Yeah,
guys do farm shares? How does that work?
we do. Yep. So we own Fog Hollow Farm. We've been in business. This is our 4th season, and we're a poultry farm. And this is a side gig, if you will. My partner works full time at Wintergreen. That's a vegetable farm, and he's just a go, ambitious entrepreneur. And so when we purchased our land out in Walton 4 years ago, we started our business, and we decided to go with the poultry and the meat because just kind of how saturated the vegetable market is as far as local organic food. And so, yeah, we have our poultry farm that always keeps us busy, let me tell you. And yeah, we do have a website. It's, yep, if you just were to Google Fog Hollow Farm, I actually developed our website on WordPress, right? Because I've had my blog for my writing on WordPress for so long that I knew just what to do. So we're foghollowfarm.wordpress.com. Yeah.
Oh, that is a perfect segue because my next question was about how our listeners could follow you on social media if they wanted to keep up with you. So Fog Hollow Farm
Thank you.
at WordPress.com.
Yep, .wordpress.com. And then my blog, which I have had segments of my memoir published there throughout about 12 years now, or 10 or 12 years. And that's Terah Van Dusen .wordpress.com. And that's TerahVanDusen .wordpress.com. And then I'm also on Facebook. And then Instagram is more where I share my creative side, with links to my blog and mentions of essays or poetry that I'm sharing.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that we can interview you again after the conference, and we'll see what happens next with your writing. And I'm sure that our listeners will love to hear what's happening next for you.
Oh, I appreciate that a lot. This has been so fun and so new to me. Thank you for making my podcast dreams come a reality. And I appreciate you and what you're doing. Thank you, Jen.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sometimes we have to start over. Sometimes we have to fight back. Sometimes it's all too much. Lost inside the black. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Our stories are brilliant. We are resilient. Sometimes we need to lift the voices of those who've overcome and expose the ones that made the choices to stay and fight, not run.